I want you to think about something. What if the entire global financial system, the one we trust with everything from our morning coffee to our life savings, what if it's all running on ancient, clunky technology? And what if just one anonymous computer programmer with a single idea unleashed something so powerful it could just rewrite the rules of money itself? Welcome to Animeconomy. Today we're diving into the ideas from Antony Lewis's incredible book, The Basics of Bitcoins and Blockchains. And look, we're not going to be talking about price charts or hype. No, we're going on a real quest. First, we're going to understand the story of money itself. Then we'll pull back the curtain on the invisible machine that runs our world. And finally, we'll decode the technology that's trying to replace it all. Stick with me, because by the end, we're going to hit a question about freedom and control that'll really make you think. All right, let's get into it. So to really get Bitcoin, we've got to understand what it's up against. And you might think it's challenging a bank or maybe a government, but it's actually something way, way older. Bitcoin is challenging a 9,000-year-old technology, a technology we've all been using our entire lives: money. And this right here is the key idea. We tend to think of money as, dollars or coins, just things. But that's like saying communication is just a piece of paper. It's not. Money is a technology. It's a tool we invented to solve a super fundamental human problem. How do we trade value with each other? And just like any other tech, it gets upgraded. Okay, let's do a super quick flyby of human history. We started with cattle. Yeah, not exactly something you can carry in your pocket. So we upgraded to cowrie shells. Better, but hey, not all shells are created equal, right? Then boom, the first metal coins pop up in ancient Lydia. That was a huge leap in standardization. Then we got even smarter and invented paper that represented value. And of course, we needed central banks to manage all that paper. And then in 1971, we made the most radical shift of all. We cut the cord, untethering our money from anything physical. See the pattern? Every single step was an upgrade, trying to fix a problem with the old system. Seriously, that jump from a simple cowrie shell to a standardized Lydian coin, it was a total game changer. It fixed all these critical bugs in the old system. Suddenly, you had money that was durable, you could split it into smaller pieces, and you could easily verify its value. This was a massive upgrade, from nature's money to man-made, trustworthy money. All right, so as the world got bigger, carrying around heavy sacks of gold just wasn't going to cut it, right? So we got the next big upgrade: representative money. The idea was brilliant. A piece of paper that wasn't valuable on its own, but it acted as a promise, like a claim check for real gold sitting safely in a vault. This simple idea changed everything. It made trade faster, lighter, and allowed commerce to just explode across huge distances. And for a long time, under what we called the gold standard, the US dollar was exactly that. It was one of these claim checks. The value of the paper in your wallet was directly tied to a specific weight of gold. I mean, look at that tiny speck of gold right there. That's about 1 troy grain. For decades, a dollar was a promise of a certain amount of this real, physical, tangible metal. The whole system was based on something real. But then, well, we made another upgrade. In 1971, it all changed. The gold standard ended, and money became what we call fiat money. This is the system we're all living in right now. That dollar in your bank account, it's not a claim check for gold anymore. Not at all. It has value for one and only one reason: because the government says it does, and because we all collectively trust that the government will manage it properly. Its value is backed by nothing physical, just our shared belief and a government decree. And that's the crucial takeaway here. We shifted from a system backed by a hard asset to a system backed entirely by trust in a central authority. Okay, so that big shift to a trust-based system, it basically created the modern financial world. So now let's do something cool. Let's pull back the curtain and take a look inside the invisible machine that's moving all our money around the planet. So have you ever sent money to a friend overseas? You tap a button on your phone, and poof, it's sent. It feels so instant, so simple. But what is actually happening in the background? The truth is, your money isn't just flying across the ocean on some digital airplane. Nope. What's really going on is way more complex. And honestly, it's kind of ancient. See, the whole global financial system runs on this thing called correspondent banking. And all that really means is it's a network of banks that hold accounts for other banks. So your bank in the US has an account with a bank in the UK, and that bank in the UK has one with a bank in Japan. It's just this giant tangled web of IOUs. Now, I know this looks a little complicated, but the key idea is actually really simple. Before the transaction, you can see everyone's books are balanced. But here's the crucial part to notice. Alice's bank over in Singapore, it doesn't actually hold any physical pounds. It holds them in an account at another bank in the UK. This one little detail is the foundation of the entire system.
Okay, now look at the after state. This is the part that's kind of mind-blowing. The actual pounds, they never left the UK. The money just moved from Bob's bank's account at the Bank of England to Alice's bank's account at the Bank of England. The money didn't cross a single border. It just switched owners between two accounts that are basically in the same building. Then, all the way over in Singapore, Alice's bank just updates its own little spreadsheet to say, hey, Alice, you've got 10 more pounds. That's it.
And this right here shows you the problem perfectly. The system is just a patchwork of middlemen. Every single hop adds fees, it adds delays, it adds risk. That's why your instant transfer can take days to actually settle. And what if you're a small bank in a developing country? Well, the big banks might just decide you're too much of a risk and cut you off completely, locking you out of the global economy. This is the problem that Bitcoin was designed to solve. So, we've established the old system is all about trusting central institutions, right? But then, a group of cryptographers came along and asked this really radical question. What if we could replace trust in people with trust in math? What if we could build a system where the rules aren't enforced by a government or a bank, but by totally unbreakable code? You see, any kind of digital money has to solve this one huge puzzle. It's called the double spend problem. Think about it. If I email you a photo, I still have a copy, right? I can send that same photo to 1,000 other people. You obviously can't do that with money. So the question becomes, how do you create a digital dollar that can only exist in one place at a time, without a central bank watching over everything? The first piece of the solution is something called asymmetric cryptography. And it's actually a really beautiful concept. Think of it like this. Your Bitcoin address, that's your public key. It's like your home mailing address. You can give it out to anyone, and they can use it to send you stuff. In this case, Bitcoin. But then you have your private key. And that's like the actual key to your front door. It's a secret that only you have. And it's the only thing that can open your door and prove that you're the rightful owner of what's inside. Okay, the next piece of the puzzle is the cryptographic hash. The easiest way to think about this is like a unique digital fingerprint for any piece of data. You could take the entire text of War and Peace, run it through this function, and it spits out a short, unique string of characters. It's fingerprint. Now here's the magic. If you go back and change just a single comma in that massive book, the fingerprint changes completely. It's a total one-way street. It's easy to create the fingerprint, but it's mathematically impossible to go backwards and recreate the book from just the fingerprint. So when you combine your secret private key with a message, like send 1 Bitcoin to Bob, you create what's called a digital signature. Now, this is not a picture of your handwriting. It's a powerful piece of cryptographic proof. It proves 2 things at the exact same time. 1, that the message hasn't been changed at all, and 2, that it could only have been created by the person who owns that specific private key. It is verifiable, unforgeable proof. So where do all these signed transactions go? They go into a public ledger that absolutely everyone can see, the blockchain. Think of it like a magic public book. Each new block is just a new page filled with transactions. Now, here's the genius part. Every page is sealed shut with one of those unique cryptographic fingerprints, and that fingerprint is then stamped onto the very next page. This creates an unbreakable chain. If you tried to go back and change something on an old page, you'd break its seal, which would change its fingerprint, which would break the seal of the next page and the next, all the way to the present. It's basically an impossible task. It's a book that you can only write in. You can never, ever erase. Okay, I know we're covering a lot of ground here, but hopefully it's all starting to click into place. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, if it's helping you see how all this stuff fits together, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. And hey, if you know someone who's totally confused by all this, maybe share this with them. It could be that aha moment they've been looking for. But here's the thing. This unerasable magic book, it isn't just for logging money transfers. This technology opens up a whole new digital frontier. It gives us a way to prove ownership of, well, pretty much anything. So, for example, on the left, you've got a physical coin that actually holds the private key to some real Bitcoin. It's a token that represents real-world value. And on the right, a CryptoKitty, a unique, one-of-a-kind digital cat. It's a token that represents purely digital value. This is what blockchain lets us do. It lets us create digital objects that are verifiably unique and scarce. And that could be anything: the title to your car, a share in a company, a piece of digital art. Seriously, the possibilities are just staggering. But that brings up a huge question. What is any of this actually worth? Well, let me tell you a famous story. Back in 2010, a programmer named Laszlo Hanyecz made the very first documented real-world purchase using Bitcoin. He paid 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizzas. Today, those same 10,000 Bitcoin would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a completely insane story, right? But it forces us to ask a really fundamental question. What is anything really worth? Is it what it costs to make, or is it just whatever someone else is willing to pay for it? The story of Bitcoin Pizza Day shows us, in the most extreme way imaginable, that value, in the end, is just a story we all agree on. But let's be real. This new frontier is not without its dangers. It really is the Wild West out there. Prices can swing wildly. The centralized exchanges where most people trade, they can get hacked. And here is maybe the most critical risk of all. When you control your own keys, you are your own bank. Now, that sounds empowering, and it is. But it also means if you lose that private key, your money is gone. Forever. There is no 1-800 number you can call. And layered on top of all of that, you've got governments all over the world still trying to figure out the rules. The rulebook for this game is literally being written as we speak. And all of this brings us to our final section, the unwritten chapter. Because this isn't just a story about technology or about finance. It's really a story about human systems. It's about power, and it's about what comes next. Think about it like this. The traditional system we have now, it gives us stability and a sense of protection, but the price we pay is control. We have to place our trust in big institutions. This new world, on the other hand, offers something totally different: absolute individual control over your own value. Freedom from censorship, freedom from seizure, but it comes with immense personal responsibility and the raw, untamed risk of a system with no central boss. There's no safety net. So the ultimate question we're left with is this: is the freedom from control worth the risk of chaos? I'd genuinely love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on this pretty wild journey through the past, present, and maybe the future of money. If you love breaking down these kinds of huge ideas, definitely make sure you're subscribed to Anime Economics. Our whole mission here is to turn complex economics, politics, and power dynamics into clear visual stories so you can get a better handle on how the world really works. And look, what we covered today barely scratches the surface of what's in Antony Lewis's book. If you want to go way deeper on this stuff, I honestly can't recommend it enough. The link to grab a copy is right down there in the description.